Hey guys, thanks for tuning into today's episode of Group Chat. Make sure you watch to the end for a special announcement.
Good morning, class. Today we are continuing with our public speaking exercise, so that means I need all of you on your best behavior if you're not up here presenting. Okay, that means no. Let's do our hand signs like we practiced. Come on. What does this mean?
No side conversations.
Perfect. And what does this mean?
No drooling in the bathroom.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, so our first presenter today is Katie. There you are, and your topic is identity. So if you would come on up, please. Hi, everyone. So, identity, I guess that's just what you are, or what you feel you are, what you know you are. I think a lot of things contribute to the way we perceive ourselves. Like, we have a lot of smaller identities, like racial identity or sexuality, and all those are kind of intertwined. So, if you're out of touch with one of them, you're kind of out of touch with the rest of yourself. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I'm the teacher, so I have the right to interrupt. I just want to say that sometimes public speakers will use personal examples to further elaborate. Okay. So go ahead and use a personal example. Oh, right. Well, I have a white dad and an Asian mom. Oh, my husband is Asian. Oh. Okay. Well, at first when I was younger, I didn't know that my two sides were separate. I kind of just experienced both because that was my life. But as I got older, people started looping me in with either side whenever they felt like it, and that caused that internal disconnect that I mentioned earlier. It started in middle school where most of my classmates were East Asian. You know how all Asians do that thing that's specific to East Asians? My family doesn't do that, actually. Then you're not Asian. In high school, it was the same thing, but with microaggressions. Don't you guys eat dog? And fetishization. You're mixed, right? That's hot. Even my relatives didn't like who they were. Oh, hi, Anak, come here. I brought this back from the Philippines. It's supposed to make your skin whiter. Give it to your mom. I was really confused for a while because I didn't understand what people wanted from me. But since then, I've learned that it's okay to exist outside the definitions people have, and nobody outside of yourself can tell you who you are. Oh, lovely. Lovely. You weren't really making eye contact, so I'm gonna have to mark you down a full letter grade. But, great insight. Yeah. Our next presenter is Brandon. I know our chat room looks like something out of the year 2000, but it is definitely 2021. Just like the young people who surfed the net way back then, we also have a lot to say when it comes to the world around us.
I'm a little sweet, a little spicy, but I'm all love.
They call me sunshine in human form.
Beauty doesn't last, but swag is forever.
Honey, I'm not dimming my light for anybody.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing, Katie.
Thank you, guys.
Love you, Katie.
Well, let's go ahead and jump right on in. In an AdolescentTV article, writer Sydney Sweeney tackled the origin of Black-sounding names within the African American community. In her post, she said, "In my own battle against Eurocentrism, as a 23-year-old Black woman, I felt somewhat disconnected from my own given name. So when it comes to your own name, how did you receive yours? And what relationship has it played with your self-identity?" That's good. What about nicknames? Ooh, I like this question.
I love that question.
Yeah. I guess as a Black woman, I would definitely say there were times where I have felt disconnected from my given name just because of the history, right? Because I know my origins probably wouldn't have me to be Cole, which is my last name, right? But I think the coolest thing about me getting my name is that my middle name is actually after Sade, the singer. My dad gave it to me, so I really, really love that. And my actual given name, Kiana, y'all know me as Key. But Kiana actually means divine or noble. And it has like Hawaiian origins, which is kind of cool. But yeah, and my nickname is Key. And all these other things connected to like being a light and sunshine. So what are y'all's thoughts on, the idea of like how you received your name, your relationship with your name and your self-identity? And then what about nicknames?
For me, my name was given to me by my older sister. So back in 1994, there was this movie, Andre the Seal, and so therefore Andre came from that for my 5-year-old sister. So I know that my name is unique. I know that I'm a unique person. I know that I'm different. But I also know that with my name that it's been butchered so many times and people mess up my name so much that it gets frustrating because I have people that then think I'm a man. They don't know that I'm a woman or that I identify as a woman. So for me, sometimes it can get frustrating because it's like I'll say my name or I'll introduce myself like as Andre, and then people will be like Audrey or Andrea or Andre, and I'm like, it's Andre.
And you better correct them every time.
I try, but I don't want to be rude, you know?
No, every time. And you do it with love and with a smile, but you let them know that is not my name. I'm so sorry. It actually is. And you tell them every single time. I tell them to my students all the time. Tell them every time.
Yeah.
You deserve it.
This is a very interesting question for me because I'm a Chinese American and my name is Eric. And I almost feel like it's a pretty common thing for Asian immigrants and specifically Chinese immigrants to name their children with like pretty traditionally American names. But I also think what's interesting is that like it feels like there's this wave of Asian American names. Like you probably know an Asian male named Kevin, right? Or Eric, or maybe Ben, like they're just like pretty generic names, I would say. But I definitely think Asian Americans have really taken over the like names like Kevin. But then on the other hand, I have a Chinese name. So my Chinese name is Zheng Jiarui. My last name is supposed to be spelled with a Z, but there's a lot of history there. I won't go into that. So that's just not something that I really share in an American setting. If someone asks me, oh, like, what is your middle name? It's Jiarui, which is part of my Chinese name. And that's actually pretty common for a lot of Chinese Americans too, is that like either their middle name is their first initial of their middle name, or like they just say that they don't have one, or it's part of their Chinese name. So for me, that's related a lot to my identity because it's Chinese words and it like it actually has a meaning. So I think it's like something like delivering happiness or something where you can like choose what the meaning of your child's name means in Chinese in a way that I would say like Eric, which I just literally Googled, means like superior, divine, whatever. Like that's like not why my parents named me that, but you can deliver more of a meaning there. So I think that's interesting. And I think that if anyone asks, or whenever I kind of put myself out there, like on my social media, on my Instagram, I have my Chinese name. It's something that I'm trying to own a little bit more.
So my full name is Caitlin Jessica McCoy. My social security, just kidding. But I literally have the whitest name on the block. So like my last name from my dad, obviously. And Caitlin, I think my dad wanted to name me something similar to his name, which is Casey. Selfish of him, I know. And my middle name, Jessica, is kind of my only connection to like my mom's side because her dad's name was Jesus and everybody called him Jesse. So that's where I got Jessica from. And I go by Katie, that's a nickname. I was given that nickname like a very long time ago, and that's just what I go by now. I agree with what Sydney wrote in this article about being disconnected with her name. Without a doubt, like I've benefited in some way, probably in ways I'm not even aware of, by having a white sounding name. I've found myself in recent years wishing so badly that my parents hyphenated their last names or like made my middle name my mom's maiden name or something, just some sort of indication that I'm Filipino. Sometimes I feel bad for feeling that way because I should be appreciative of having some sort of privilege, which of course I am. I have lived in San Francisco and gone to school in San Francisco my whole life in like a district that is like super predominantly Asian. Oh, this is such like a first world problem. Proving to my peers that I'm Asian and that like I am just as Filipino as I am white, and that I experience the world differently from a fully white person, and I feel like I've been invalidated in that way. As I've grown to be more secure in my identity now, I know that I don't have to prove to other people who I am in order to be who I am, but it's still something that I'm gonna have to work at for a while. So
I love that, Katie. Thank you so much for sharing that, because for me, like I'm biracial too, so I know like what it's like to, you know, feel like you have to prove yourself to the one or more of the races that you identify with.
All right, I think it's time to see if we have any messages from our inbox.
Personality tests, pseudoscience, or are they actually a helpful tool? I like them and I use them a lot. I used to work in higher ed with students, so that was very, very helpful as far as like learning how to work with certain students, how they're best supervised or how they best succeed.
What's one misconception about you? One misconception is that I'm from California. Lots of people think I'm from LA. It's because I'm Asian. I'm from the Midwest.
In the same article, Sweeney also wrote, "My dissatisfaction can read as self-indulgent or pompous, especially as many immigrant parents of color give their children white names. Putting names aside, how much societal norms impacted your sense of self? Whether it's gender, norms, cultural assimilation, capitalism, like, what do you all think?"
You know, I mentioned to you all in another time about growing up in the South, right? And I think that really played a huge role in kind of the formation of just kind of how my personality is and a lot of different things. And so when I moved to the East Coast to go to school at Howard University, when I got there, I just realized people were very, very different. I was seen as kind of being like naive because I was so nice. I would say hi to everybody and I would be smiling all the time. And on the East Coast, that Southern hospitality, you know, was kind of seen as like a negative thing. They also thought that we were like country and we didn't wear shoes and like all kind of weird stuff. Not necessarily at Howard, just in general on the East Coast. That's just like a consensus that people from the South are just ignorant and they aren't intelligent. And I'm like, but I have done this, and this, and done all these things and learned all this stuff and was at the top of my class. So how am I ignorant? How did I make it into school? So it was just like a lot of stuff like that. So that did affect me when I first got there because I felt like similar to you all, I had to prove myself to people. But then over time, like I was like, you know what? This is a part of me and all these beautiful things makes college so beautiful is that all these people, different people come together. And then the other thing I would say is like, you know, society says you have to do just one thing. This is your job and that is what you do. And I've never been that kind of person. Like I do this with y'all. I come and chat with y'all. I have my own brand where I help people with self-care. I, you know, teach kids. I do a lot of different things and I touch on a lot. I love to dance. And people just be like making it seem like you can only do one thing. And that's just not true. It's not who I am. I'm multifaceted. And I used to think that was a bad thing because I felt I wasn't great at anything. But then I was like, dang, I'm good at a lot of stuff. And I think that matters too. So I guess society's always trying to tell you, you got to live a certain way. And honey, I've been bucking against that my whole life. You know, I've been a rule follower in a lot of senses because I thought that was the right thing to do. But the older I got, like, you know, I gracefully buck against the system because I just think that I'm more. Like the box is not even big enough for what I'm trying to do.
Thank you, Keith, for sharing. I really appreciate it because that definitely, you're not the only one. Trust me, I say hi to everybody and people think I'm, you know, I got something on my face or my breath stinks. Like, I'm just saying hello. That's it. Like, I just want to know, you know, I want to make sure that, you know, I recognize you as a person. So, you know, people are rude. It's cool. It's cool.
That's real.
This is something that I feel like I think about every day, so I'm not going to be able to answer the question succinctly enough. Something that I think about as a gay Asian man, and then if we're throwing in ideas about capitalism, someone who wants to pursue the arts, like, I think something that's really interesting is that in my specific scenario, and this applies to a lot of people, when people say like, oh, intersectionality, I don't really get what that happens and yada yada. And I think like a lot of us have been beat over the head like so much with the concept of intersectionality. But I really do think one thing that people don't realize is that when you have these societal norms put against you, a lot of times they conflict with each other. So there's this stereotype that the Orient is feminine and is submissive, and whether that applies to Asian women or Asian men, you know, these studies about how Asian men and Black women are the least desirable in dating culture because they're too masculine or they're too feminine, perceived by society. That idea coupled with this idea that I'm a man, so that I should be masculine, but then I'm also like gay, and that's generally more feminine, like all these things that just like don't make sense together. And I think that the best way is just not letting myself fixate on anything. Exactly what Keith said, which is to be very aware of where those things come from, because I'm from Troy, Michigan, and although there is a very high Asian population, I still think that white supremacy dominates like the school system and the community in a way where like another thing about Asian identity is that like you essentially have to be different to get into college, according to, you know, like that's like what's the big topic of conversation now, or to be accepted into society. So all these things that are just very counterintuitive and counteract each other, in my opinion, is a reason to just dismantle that altogether and to just be exactly what I want to be, whatever that means, which is like easier said than done. But I think I'm kind of trailing along exactly what Key is saying, which is like, fuck all that. Like, I'll like understand where this comes from and then being like, bye. That was circuitous, but that's my take right now.
Yeah. That point you made about Black women and Asian men. Ooh, you just because I'm tired of being called mad for just speaking in a regular tone, or like being passionate, and then, you know, don't even get me started on colorism.
I was gonna get into that too. As a biracial woman, like my mom is white, my dad is Black, so a lot of times growing up, people would get me Black Barbie dolls, white Barbie dolls, and they would definitely not look like me. Well, she looks this way, so we're gonna identify her as this. Like when I got my braids, like my mom was like, oh my God, like I get really like conscious, like self-conscious of like, oh, is my mom gonna say something because she's a white woman, or the white women that I'm around, like, are they gonna, oh my God, how'd your hair grow, or something like that? You know, it's just, it can get like weird sometimes because like I'm just being me. I'm well aware of this stuff, and it's not like I chose this life. Like this is just who I am, and I've just come to terms with like I can't make everybody happy.
I hear y'all about your struggles as Black women. I definitely cannot relate, but I hear y'all and I'm here for y'all. One point that I wanted to touch on is something that Eric brought up, like gender norms in Asian culture. And I also want to say like patriarchal ideals hurt everyone. They don't just affect women, like they affect men's senses of self as well. And yeah, like toxic masculinity, heteronormativity, they have effects on everybody's self-esteem and sense of self. And me personally, like it was almost a revelation when I learned that I didn't need male approval and that I didn't need to serve men, and like I didn't really owe them anything. And I'm angry that this is the way the world works, because that shouldn't have been a revelation for me. That shouldn't have been something I had to learn about myself. That's not something that I should have to like unpack. You know, I and everybody should be able to feel safe in this world, walking through this world and loving themselves as individuals, not warping their own perceptions of themselves to like please other people, let alone like an entire demographic. It's really outrageous to me that me and so many of my friends have like, I don't know, like literally changed ourselves or suppressed parts of ourselves to like please like our male counterparts. And I know some people are going to respond to this and be like, oh, like that's not men's problem. It's everybody's problem, okay? It's everybody's problem. So that's what I have to say.
As always, it's so much fun getting to hang with everybody. And for everyone watching, we want you to join in too. Tell us your thoughts in the comments below.
To promote our latest series and our YouTube channel, we're giving away a Pentax K1000 film camera and 2 rolls of film. As a Gen Z creative network, we want to give back to our community and inspire the next wave of creators. And we feel the best way to do that is to give them the tools to create. To enter this contest, you must do the following. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at AdolescentTV, turn on notifications, like and comment on the Identity episode of Group Chat. Contest ends February 5th. Good luck, everyone.